It's time now for First Person, stories of real people in real lives. Here's Paul Ladd.
Faith matters to Vince Pinkerton in his life and in his work. Vince has enjoyed a successful career in television production and is now adding author to his resume. Vince has written The Devil Plays Six Strings and The Devil and the Dance Hall Girl. Vince, thank you so much for coming by today.
Oh, sure, Paul. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You've got some great stories here, and I wanted to ask you, first of all, about The Devil Plays Six Strings. What made you decide to write this book?
Well, that book kind of came to me in a roundabout fashion. I have a gentleman that I work with that I do some television producing for, and he and I at a business meeting one afternoon started talking about movies, and he started telling me about what he thought would make a great horror movie. Oh, well, that's interesting. And then he started talking about maybe we ought to produce a horror movie. And that got me thinking I needed to write a script. So I started working on scripting and basically ran into a brick wall on it and just decided I needed to start. Before I jumped into scripting, I needed to work on just basically writing long form. So I gave myself an assignment that I wanted to try to write something to where a character spoke conversationally only in Bible verse, not in a preaching way, but just conversationally. And I pulled it off. The character was named Elijah Parker. He was a blind black man who was having a conversation with his son, and anything his son asked him, he answered him in Bible verses. Showed it to my wife. She thought that was interesting, and it just kind of grew esoterically from there. I finished the story from that point to what became the end of the book, and then went back and brought the story up to figure out why Elijah was speaking in Bible verses. And that's where the book actually came through.
Are we all like Elijah in some way?
I think we are. And I think hopefully we don't get to that point the way he did in the book without giving too many spoilers out. But I think as Christians, we need to bring the Bible into us. We need to make that as part of our lives. In his case, because everything I do I kind of exaggerate, it became his life literally. But I think as Christians, we need to bring that in. And if that Bible is living inside of us, then it's very easy to be the people that we need to be as Christians on the outside.
Well, we might be the only Bible some people will ever read.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In The Devil Plays Six Strings, our main character, Elijah Parker, has been through a lot. And he goes through even more. His wife has passed away. She was very devout and believed what was in the Bible. He had a hard time understanding those words. And I think we've all been there, even if we don't like to admit it.
We have. I think we have all lived that. And in the book specifically, his wife is very devout. He was not raised as a believer. He was not raised in a Bible household, we'll put it that way. So when she passes, the only thing he has left of hers is that Bible. And I think we should point out, too, that the first half of this book is set in 1930 in southern Mississippi. And Elijah is a black sharecropper. His wife dies in childbirth, and now he's left as a black man in southern Mississippi in the 30s trying to figure out how to raise a newborn, how to take care of a newborn.
Not the lack of luxury.
No. And the only thing he's able to take with him of his wife is her Bible. He tries to read it. He tries to get into it. It just doesn't make any sense to him. And then they actually, as part of their travel, trying to figure out how to make life work, they end up at a place called St. Catullus Church, where he is taken under the wing of a minister and the lady that runs the church. And he begins to get it. I guess we'll put it that way. Through the study they do, he begins to get it. But then, as is often the case in that part of the world at that time, some racism and bigotry rears its ugly head, and he feels he has to leave the church. And that's what sets him down the path to meeting Mr. Give, which is my name for the devil in these books.
More next time with Vince Pinkerton. To find out more about Vince and his books, please visit sixstringdevil.com. That's the number 6stringdevil.com. With First Person, I'm Paul Ladd.
It's time now for First Person, stories of real people in real lives. Here's Paul Ladd.
Vince Pinkerton says he is not a Christian author. Instead, he's an author who happens to be a Christian. If he said, "Hi, I'm the devil," or "Hi, I'm your friend Satan," we'd all be like, whoa, whoa.
Exactly.
The devil doesn't come out to people like that. He's not all in red and waving a pitchfork and all like on the deviled ham thing and having a long tail.
That's exactly it. And I think the world, we'll get a little esoteric, I think the world has got this idea of Satan as just that character. You know, he's the little short pudgy man in the red suit with the tail and the pitchfork. That makes him accessible. That makes him, he's a cute little guy. Maybe we need to find out some more about him. And that's one thing with these books. I was talking to our friend Jennifer Heron, mutual friend. I was speaking with her last night, and we were talking about the fact that these books kind of, we're pushing the definition of Christian fiction in these books, where modern Christian fiction, as a rule, is fairly clean. We won't say squeaky, but it's, they don't delve into a lot of things. And if there is hardship, a lot of times it's just presented, here's the problem, now let's talk about the solution. These books, I don't pull any punches in these books. Which is a whole other subject we can get into at some point, but I don't pull the punches in the books because I wanted to present, even though I exaggerated some, I wanted to present some very realistic situations and how we have to deal with those situations and what happens if we don't deal with them well. So we go down that road a lot with these books. But back to the devil, I wanted him to be relatable, but the most evil person you could ever run into in your life. So I tell people, have you ever seen the movie White Lightning with Burt Reynolds?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Jerry Reed plays a Southern drug dealer in that in that movie. And he's despicable, but he's also the guy that you want to go have a beer at the bar with. When he's on your side, he's your buddy. He's Southern, he's genteel, he's funny. But as soon as you cross him, then you're going to pay the piper. And that's what I tried to do with Mr. Give in these books. He comes off charming. He comes off relatable. He's there to do you a favor. In both books, that's how he gets in. I'm your buddy, I'm your pal, I'm here to do you a favor. Just sign this contract, you're going to have anything you ever want. I'll take care of you.
Everything you ever wanted.
Exactly. And then the reality of what you've done sets in.
I just want to help you.
Absolutely.
Well, Vince, life is real. It's not like one of those Hallmark movies. Problems don't get solved in 90 minutes. Okay, 82 minutes with commercials, but it's really important to meet people where they are.
Yeah, you have to. You absolutely have to. And there's, like I say, that's kind of what I did in these books. And I also want to point out that these books are works of fiction. These are thrillers. These are borderline, in points, horror books. Because I treat the situations seriously and hopefully with a realistic eye. These are not the kind of books you may not sit down and read this book and feel that your Christian life has now suddenly become completely fulfilled. This is my favorite example when I'm talking to people. These are not The Shack, if you remember the book The Shack. Okay, these are probably the antithesis of that. But I try to really bring real situations in and show how people are having to deal with them. Without giving too much away, I have caught a lot of flack from friends on the end of The Devil Plays Six Strings, because the main character, he has his moment. He gives himself to Christ. He dedicates his life. He realizes that the things he did under contract to Mr. Give have taken him down a completely wrong path. And he's fulfilled and he's happy, and he steps out of the church where this has happened, and he steps right back into the life he left. Everything that he had done before is still there. And we won't talk about the ending. But I will tell everybody, if you read it, read the epilogue, please. Don't just stop at the end. Read the epilogue. But I really wanted to make that point, that when we give ourselves to Christ, when we dedicate our life to God, that's about our eternity. That's about where we go when we're done here. And I think there's a lot of books and honestly a lot of ministering out there that makes people think, as soon as I repent and as soon as I give myself to God, life's going to be hunky-dory. I've got it made. Exactly. Wow. Exactly. You still have to face what you've done in your life. Salvation is about going forward. It's not about where you are. If so, then, people that give themselves to Christ in prison, why don't they just immediately get out? They've still got to face what they've done in life.
We have more with Vince Pinkerton coming up. SixStringDevil.com is Vince's home on the web. The number SixStringDevil.com. With First Person, I'm Paul Ladd.
It's time now for First Person, stories of real people in real lives. Here's Paul Ladd.
We're here again today with Vince Pinkerton, author of The Devil Plays Six Strings and The Devil and the Dance Hall Girl. Both books address the issue of temptation and how people deal with it. How might a Christian fiction book inspire people to pick up a Bible and want to learn more about Jesus?
Well, in the first book, as far as my books are concerned, in the first book, there's a lot of Bible in that book. As I say, one of my main characters speaks it, but I hope that tweaks interests. And I hope it just sparks something in the people that read it to make them want to just delve a little further into the Word and into what Christianity looks like. I will say, I tell people when I do interviews, I'm an author who's a Christian. I'm not a Christian author.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. There's very much a difference. I'm not writing to a Christian audience. I'm hopefully writing to a wider audience. I have another person that I ran into that I've known for years that read the books, and I ran into her in a Costco, believe it or not. And she was very excited because I had just announced the publication of the second book. And she's like, I need to get it. I said, well, what did you think of the first part? She goes, well, I didn't really like the Christian stuff in it, and I know her background, so I know where that came from. She said, I didn't really like the Christian stuff in it, but the more I read on it, the more I realized that to write a book about Satan and the problem solving that comes in dealing with Satan, you have to have the other end. You have to have the other side. So I'm hoping in cases like that, people can read the books, can get the enjoyment out of it, and maybe that puts a spark in there.
Most people are authors or broadcasters or plumbers or doctors who happen to be Christians. It's just part of who you are. It's not something you take with you. It's something you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you have to live that. I was actually thinking, coming over here, how much more good as people could we do if we carried our Bible inside us instead of in the crook of our arm? Because right here, if it's in the crook of your arm, it's a shield, and people say, well, the Bible should be a shield, but it's also something that separates you from people. But if we are living, breathing, walking entities of what the Bible says we should be, we're going to be able to influence people and bring people around a lot more than if we hold a book out and say, you need to read this.
What good is it to know all the stuff in the Bible if you don't know what it means and don't live what it means?
And back to what you said earlier about we may be the only Bible some people ever see. That's that exactly. That is that exactly. We need to be out there. We need to be in the world. I know we're not to be of the world, but we need to be in the world trying to be that shining light. Not to say, look at me, I'm a shining light, but just to help brighten people, to help brighten people's lives, to be around them.
Won't people know you're a shining light just by being one?
If you're doing it well, they should. It's the ones that say, look at my light bulb, that you got to worry about.
Still more ahead with Vince Pinkerton. You can check out sixstringdevil.com for more about Vince and his books. sixstringdevil.com. With First Person, I'm Paul Ladd.
It's time now for First Person, stories of real people in real lives. Here's Paul Ladd.
It's my pleasure today to welcome back Vince Pinkerton, who I guess we can say is a multimedia kind of guy. In addition to longtime success as a TV producer, Vince has now written 2 books, with more to come. We all have our devils to deal with, even if they're not playing 6 strings, don't we?
We do. We absolutely do. I try in the books without being preachy. I try to discuss sin and the effects of sin in our life. The devil plays 6 strings. When Elijah makes his deal with the devil, Mr. Give promises him what Elijah has thought earlier in the book that he needs. He promises him a place to live. He promises him food on the table. He promises him a job. And he promises him somebody to help him raise little Happy. Those are the things that Elijah feels like if he just had these things, his life would be perfect. And when he makes his deal with the devil, all of a sudden he has those things. He gives him a house. He gives him a job playing guitar in a nightclub he runs. Promises him there's food on the table. And when he gets to the house that the devil's given him, there's a lady there named Marie. And Marie is a white woman. She's matronly. She can't speak. She's unable to speak. And a relationship develops there that takes Marie on a journey. Because for some reason, here's somebody that is working hand in hand with the devil. This is who he's put there to keep an eye on Elijah. But she starts seeing things through Elijah, through his love of his past wife, his clinging to her Bible, his wanting to understand it. She begins to see something there in him that starts to make a change in her. Won't say too much more there. Read the book because these books intertwine a lot. But when I was writing that, the character of Marie really stuck with me. And I was finding myself asking questions. Why is she working for the devil? Why can't she speak? What's she looking for that Elijah has brought into her life? And that's where the devil and the dance hall girl came from. I went a completely different spin in that book. And we meet Marie as a child, and her parents run a stagecoach relay station on the prairie in the early 1800s. I mean, we're jumping back here a little bit. An absolutely horrible thing happens, and she loses her family in a basically murderous rampage brought on by a terribly scarred cowboy. She's the only one that survives, and she ends up in probably what would seem like the absolute worst place for a 12-year-old girl to end up. She ends up the ward of a madam in a house of ill repute. She's taken in. The madam, Miss Ellen, takes her under her wing, basically, because they're in a small town called Animas Forks, which is a It's a mining town. There's 8 mines that surround it. It's all basically men, other than the ladies that are in the boarding house, as we call it. So she takes Marie under her wing, and all of a sudden Marie finds herself, she's in a family again, but it's a completely different family from where she started.
Not the Waltons.
Not the Waltons, far from it. It is Miss Ellen and Miss Ellen's friend, who is one of the ladies there, but also has a relationship going with Ellen. And they make this odd family unit. But unfortunately, because it follows with Marie's life, again, something terrible happens there. And she finds herself alone with just Marlene, who is a prostitute, who is a heavy drinker, who is a basically terribly unhappy person. But because of a promise that she made Miss Ellen, she stays with Marie, keeps her safe, keeps her from going in to this business that Marlene is using to support them. They end up at the Gray's Saloon in Kansas City. Marie is singing in the dance club in the saloon. Marlene is doing what Marlene does. And at one point after a show, Marlene brings a gentleman backstage. We won't explain, because you need to read the book, exactly how Marlene found him or why she brought him back there. But he comes back, Marlene passes out, and he basically, it's Mr. Give, starts his spiel. Here's what I could do for you. Marie holds her hand up, and she says, I know who you are. I know what you are. I know who you are. And Mr. Give is a cute name. It's much better, as you said earlier, it's much better than Satan, Beelzebub. I know who you are. And if you can get me out of the hell that my life has been for the last 16 years, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Sign me up. It can't be worse than where I've been.
But yes, it can.
But yes, it can.
Vince Pinkerton is author of The Devil Plays Six Strings and The Devil and the Dance Hall Girl. SixStringDevil.com has more information on both books and Vince. That's the number SixStringDevil.com. More with Vince next time. With First Person, I'm Paul Ladd.
It's time now for First Person, stories of real people in real lives. Here's Paul Ladd.
Let's talk some more now with Vince Pinkerton, who offers us tales of temptation in The Devil Plays Six Strings and The Devil and the Dance Hall Girl. We're all going to face temptation in our lives, and Vince says a strong faith can help us resist it. How has writing these books helped your faith?
It's made me think. It's really made me think. These books have a lot of intertwining threads, and that gets even more so in the next books coming out. These threads continue to intertwine. And it's made me go in and really think about how the strings that the devil plays, how those affect us. He's in it for the long game, just as we are to be in it for the long game. It's really made me get into that. It's made me study my Bible a whole lot more. I'll tell you that. Looking for references, looking for ideas to put into these books. I've had to really dig deeper than the cursory reading that we tend to do as Christians. We all need to read our Bible, but I think a lot of that turns into, well, it's a habit that I need to read a verse before I go to bed at night. But really to get into it and get into what it says, that's really helped me in that end of it.
Your TV work is now including entertainment television, ETV. Tell us about that.
Entertainment television, ETV, is a streaming network, streaming service. It is absolutely free. And it was created by a group that I work with as a way to get our television products out to a wider audience. A lot of our stuff has been syndicated. A lot of it's syndicated through Christian networks. But we just wanted to have a home base for what we do. So ETV was created, and then we bought into a large library of classic movies, TV shows, and we started connecting with other TV producers that we work with to get content. And what we've come up with is, as of this weekend, there's over 10,000 hours of television on ETV. Like I say, classic movies, classic TV shows, but we also have our programming, which falls in the Christian realm. Shows like Cheyenne Country, which for the initial 5 seasons of that, COVID took a hit on us. But the initial 5 seasons was actually syndicated worldwide. We were on, I think, 15 Christian networks, 3 secular networks in the United States. The Keeping It Country cable network in Europe picked it up. An Australian Christian network picked it up. It's family-friendly country music videos. One of our gentlemen we work with is a guy named William Traylor, who's a bit of a gospel music insider working specifically in the Southern gospel. So Bill's show, My Gospel Music with Bill Traylor. Outside of this group, I produce Dr. Bobby Jones Presents. If you know Dr. Jones, long time, basically the BET channel was built on Dr. Jones's programming. About 6 years ago, as I took over doing production on it, he transitioned out of BET onto the Impact Network. So his programs are there. But we also have cooking programs, travel programs, children's programming, cartoons. It's just kind of a place you can go. All of it is clean. I'm not going to say it's all Christian, but it's all clean. It's all family-friendly stuff. And again, it's absolutely free. Anywhere in the world, you can go on our website, which is etv.tv, and sign up for a free subscription. And then ETV is available. You can watch it there on your computer, but it's available on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. With your credentials that you create online, you sign in on any of those services, and it's there at your fingertips.
We've been talking today with Vince Pinkerton, who has written The Devil and the Dance Hall Girl and The Devil Plays Six Strings. Both of these are works of fiction, but we know they're going to inspire you to want to know more about the Bible and learn more about the love God has for each of us. And if you'd like to know more about Vince and everything he's up to, check out sixstringdevil.com. That's the number sixstringdevil.com. Vince, thank you so much. This has been fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And let me put in there that the books are available on Amazon.com. That's the easiest way to get them.
With First Person, I'm Paul Ladd.